Hello there. It's good to be here. I have by my side, in front of me, Frank Mates and João Richa. Good to have you both.
Good to be with you, Fernando.
Yeah, either. Me too.
That's good. Thank you very much. So we've been things happening in terms of tighter budgets, lower risk appetite, pressure to deliver growth while protecting the core. So basically, our conversation will run through those topics. So it's nice to have you here. I would like to have you both introducing yourselves, then our audience can understand who are those beautiful guys here with us.
Joy, you want to
Frank,
go first, or should I?
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. So Frank's the man when it comes to helping corporate units, innovation units create tractions where their colleagues from the operative business cannot do, which is in the messy middle, as I like to say, between the core and the moonshots and the things that go beyond the existing business. Been doing this since 15 years now. And also wrote 3 books on that subject, co-created with more than 100 people, a kind of thinking model, if you will, on how to crack the challenges that are in there.
thank you, Frank. That's good. João, could you please introduce yourself? It would be nice.
Hello, everyone. This is João Richa from AEVO, managing director at AEVO right now, helping our clients since the start of our conversation until implementation and ongoing process of their innovation journey. We've been with clients for since the beginning of AEVO now, and with more than 12 countries, doing incremental innovation, disruptive innovation, and also what Frank said, that thing in between both. Very excited to talk to you guys today.
That's nice. Thank you both. I know that Frank, you love the logic on connecting now and new. What is that? What is connecting now and new in your perspective?
You see, every company, every large company has basically 2 systems, if you will, under one roof. The one system is what I call the now system. That's the existing business. That's where 99% of staff works in, right? They do the selling, they do the marketing, the recruiting, the financial controlling, the procurement, you name it, everything. That's the existing business needs, right? And this system is designed for productivity and predictability. So there are lots of processes in here. There's short-term thinking to make sure that the processes produce what they promises, etc. You've got deep expertise, eye-shaped people in those various functions in here. So that's the one system. But there's also a system that looks beyond what is today improvements, innovations. There's a vast spectrum, as we all know, right? And this is what I call the new system. And the folks working in there, they are working differently. They have an agile work style. They think typically have a longer term perspective. And they use approaches like build, test, learn from that, which is not at all the process perspective. So long story short, the now and the new, they do not fit together. But the big question is, how can we make them fit together so that the company future-proofs itself, winning in the now while at the same time creating the new?
That's fantastic. And how do you do it, Frank? Or how do you see companies doing it?
Yeah, it turns out in order to make these 2 incompatible systems work together, you need to put in some thinking in here. You need to actively design an interface between the now and the new. And it turns out that you need, I guess we'll touch on this later in our conversation, that you need to have leadership, that you need to look at the world from a methodology, process-driven way, and you need the right people and the right collaborative culture to make it happen, right? And if you ask me how they do it, basically there are two approaches. You can basically take a top-down approach and design that interface, or that's an approach that I see more frequently, is to say, okay, we have collected some insights on how to create the interface. Let's have the teams running and see to which brick walls they run. And then we help them to get back on track, and we note what did not work and we improve it for the next time.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Frank. That's amazing. And for you, João, in terms of now, new and now, let's talk about now. Which types of programs or environments benefits most or the most from a structured idea management and portfolio visibility? Thinking about the other part, how do you approach? How do you tackle it?
Excellent, Fernando. Uh, I just love what Frank said about now and new. And adding on that, now can't be against new, and new can't be against now. They need to work together. Of course, they're usually different teams, but it's the same company. Usually now it's working to get the company where it needs to go now, and the new, it's getting the company where it need to go tomorrow, right? And talking about idea management, of course, that this is an answer that can needs to take into consideration your company's reality, and all companies they are different. And they have different structures, different reality, different moments. But I see that the now it's very much beneficiated up of idea management. So basically, if you do not have an idea management process within your company, you're wasting 80% of your potential for improvement. That's not me saying, that's a book called Idea Driven Organization that says specifically that. So think of that. So if you do not have an idea management process, maybe you're losing up to 80% for potential of improvement. And talking about new, of course, that idea management can contribute with new. Maybe will not be always the best channel, best process, because when you talk idea management, you're talking about people involved in the now of the company. And are you going to expect to everybody to give an idea that will maybe finish your business, or maybe go in a direction that your business will not support and you need to pivot your entire business? Imagine someone from Blockbuster giving the idea for Netflix. This will be a little bit chaos. So, of course, that a good idea can come from anywhere. But I would say that for the now, the idea management process can be broadly uh, expanded within the company. And for the new, you need to carry out a process a little bit more centralized, while the now it's a little bit more decentralized.
That's a good angle. That's a very good angle, João.
May I just
Go ahead,
add
Frank.
to
Of
underline
course.
the point, underline the points that Joao has made. First of all, I mean, we all know historically, 70% of innovation budgets went into now. Right, it's the constant improvement, process innovation, digital transformation, etc. You name it. So that has been the focus, and quite rightly, right? And depending on the industry that the company operates in, this permanent optimization can take it very far, right? But there are also opportunities, some call it non-disruptive innovation, right? The blue ocean
Mhm.
people, etc., or something completely different that open up new value pools. So I think that's deliberately, Joel, why I picked the title Now and New, right? It's not now versus new, but it's
Of
now
course.
and new.
Yeah, yeah. And it's maybe we are going to get to this point, but it's so beautiful when the new becomes the now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when you have a new in the future.
Fantastic.
Exactly, and I mean, there's some prominent examples from companies that created the new, which became the now, right? Think about
Yeah,
Nokia, right?
yeah,
They originally they made gumboots, if I recall the story, right? At some point in their corporate history, they were in cell phones, right? And now
yeah,
they're in telco equipment.
yeah. And you just brought a really great example, Frank, in my opinion, because today I was surfing on LinkedIn a little bit, and
Okay.
I saw uh, people love to bring Nokia as a failure case of innovation when comparing to Apple,
Yeah.
comparing to Google.
Yeah.
Okay, Nokia, they uh, prefer to go on the way of cost saving, producing phones, and they got disrupted by other companies. But what people don't see actually is that Nokia is a very huge company still. They invested a lot on 5G, on infrastructure, and there's a lot of money there,
Yes.
right? And they don't see that, okay, they might fail in one direction, which is normal, but they were betting in other directions as well. And actually, Nokia is a great example of a success company on innovation, while can be also studied by a failure on innovation. And that's the beauty of playing with the now and the new because they invested a lot
Mm,
on the now. They got a
mm,
big market share, but they were also investing in a couple of news, right?
mm.
Great example, great example.
Yeah. I mean, Fernando, if it's fine, we'll just continue the
Please
conversation.
keep going. Things are getting hotter in a very good way.
Yeah,
Yeah. See, I think if Joao, one needs to look very closely why things are the way they are, right? And if we look at the now, I see three things at work. The one is the business model, right? So you
mhm,
do have the business model canvas saying here are the customers, there's the value proposition. This is how we create, we distribute the value, and then we've got some commercial stuff at the bottom of the business model canvas. Right, so describing, so to say, which parts make up the engine. Then you've got the operating model, right? So what goes on inside the engine, right? Which partners contribute to creating or distributing the value, and what are the inner workings of that engine that inside the company? How do the processes work together? So we've got these two. But I think in practice, and this comes back to the Nokia story that we shared, it's also a third part that I like to call the mental model. How do you look at the world, right? So if you're Blockbuster, you look at the world as a chain of video stores, right? You do not think in terms of, say, consumers that basically do not care for the video stores. Their job to be done is to watch videos, right? And do not have any hassle with picking up videos and returning videos. That's their job to be done. But this mental model, how you look at the world, which in many instances is very much product driven, right? We're a car company, we're a video rental company, etc. That also determines the choices that you make, right? And the choices that Nokia made back then was we are a hardware company. And now comes Apple along saying, no, it's all about software and obviously packaged in a nice hardware.
Fantastic, fantastic. Very good. And that's only the beginning. So we have much more coming on with those two. Back to you, Frank, after this initial part. Where do you see the biggest gap between early innovation or some success there and scaled business impact, the big things?
Now, if we look at the gap, quote unquote, that you mentioned, I think we can look at it in terms of figures, quantitatively. We might also look at it on the qualitative side, right? So, on the quantitative side, to give you some figures that large consulting companies compiled, and at least for the first set of data, there's a great consensus that things are the way are. So if a company has a great idea, or there's someone in the company having a great idea, maybe 2, 3 people saying, well, we should do this. That's, say, a little bit outside beyond the now, right? So it's in the adjacency, in the messy middle, as we called it, or even beyond. The chances that this becomes a new $50 million business is 3%. So that means 29 out of 30 attempts fail. The stats will tell you the chances that there comes a product out of the brilliant idea of the initial teams for companies are not much better than for greenfield startups. It's 1 out of 10, right? And this is also, I think, remarkable in the sense that if a company brings a new product to market with the consumer side or with the on the B2B side, right, there are certain requirements that this product needs to fulfill, right? It cannot just ship a piece of junk, right, without regulatory approval and not fitting to the brand, etc. So there's a lot of things going on. So this chance is 1 out of 10, and then McKinsey, I think it was, made a follow-on study saying, okay, now let's look at the 1 out of 10. How big did they become, right? And they found that the chance of this one product that hit the market to become a $50 million business is another 22%, or 19 or 22, I don't recall. So another 1 out of 5. And if you multiply these two together, right, because they are on different parts of the timeline, you end up with a 3%. Wow. So that means it's a numbers game, and obviously you can bring in some intelligence to sweeten the numbers, but at the end of the day, it's far away from the process quality that most companies are asking for. Right? They run processes with 99+% predictability, right? So it's a far cry. Now, Fernando, if I look at the qualitative side, I think in the minimum, making a successful transition from an idea that you've tested, where you collected proof points that this idea makes sense, that you can make money on that, and customers are actually willing to buy it, he said, so that the money materializes. And scaling, I would say, let's boil it down to the bare minimum. It requires shared goals between now and you. It requires a way or defined way to work together. I'd like to call it a collaboration model. And it requires to arrange a startup-like autonomy in that corporate context, right? Because if you want to make it big, you have to run like crazy. You have to work with the corporate antibodies as well as with the forces out in the market. So you need an autonomy, but this is inside the corporate context. And the way that I see it, Fernando, the average company is not good in either of these three, right? It's not a shared goals. We do not have collaboration models, and they struggle with arranging that startup-like autonomy in the corporate context.
Yeah, and the tension is there. You can
Mhm.
isolate 1 point or 2 or 3, but the tension
Yeah.
is there. So
Yes.
Mhm.
very good. And for you, John, thanks, Frank. That's a fantastic insight. And for you, John, what you've been seeing in terms of uh, quantitative analysis, in terms of biggest gaps for the now quoting.
Mhm. Well, before answering that, just wanted to add something on Frank's. I thought it's fantastic, and I just thought of some things that I see on my daily basis with our clients. And there's a quote of a client that I like very much, which is, to have a good idea, you just need to have a bunch of ideas. So that said, Frank gave the examples that uh, uh, almost all ideas that you're going to move forward will fail, and that's natural. And another client, actually, I was talking today, said that it's very crazy that sometimes you're asking for a budget of, let's say, 10,000, 20,000 euros in a big company, which is, let's say, it's nothing, and because it's an innovation budget, you need to approve with the CEO of the company or a big manager, and you just think, oh my god, you're taking the amount of time that you're taking to think about the approval of this project or not. It's the time that you're wasting in your time. It's much more expensive, this 10,000, 20,000 euros. So I believe that those examples fit very well. And sometimes we find ourselves in situations that you will remind these examples. So think, think with yourself if your company is going on the right direction, and it's if your company is acting with the best practice that you can have in the market. That Frank just said very well. Regarding quantitative analysis for the now, uh, like I said, uh, when you think about getting to the now and developing the now, first of all, I really think about idea management. And when I think about idea management and now, I think that all companies they should include everyone on this process. Of course, that you might see different opinions, and that's okay. But what we do here in AEVO Innovate helps companies to engage everyone. And a good idea for the now can come from everywhere and everyone at any time. So you do not have to limit this. And then the challenge comes after, where you need to decentralize your evaluation process. So instead of believing that some ideas will fail, actually you need to work to have the majority of your ideas being approved and being implemented, because people they know the now, they know how the job is done, they know what can be done to improve the company. So why you're rejecting so many ideas? You usually are not working with uncertainty here. You're working with the scenario that you already know. And finally, uh, we usually, not usually actually, we always tell our clients to implement as many simple ideas for the now as possible, because the result, when you're talking about idea management, producing value to now, the result really comes when you talk about volume. So our challenge today, Fernando and Frank, is to help our clients to have as many ideas possible, to engage as many people possible, to evaluate those ideas. And we're using AI to produce score to understand if the idea is good or not. It's not a binary thing, of course, but can really show the quality of an idea to an evaluator. We're using systems that can help you to find the right expert within the company to help you to evaluate this idea. And
Yeah.
last but not least, we help our clients to implement as many ideas as possible. And for sure, measure the return of those ideas, because not having ideas, implementing ideas, it's only good if you're understanding the value that the idea is generating for the company, and if this value it's aligned with the strategy. Because if I am a company that, let's say, produce paper, and I am having a lot of ideas regarding something that is not on my portfolio or my business, of course, this can be good for the new, but it's not good for the now. So we need to generate value for the core business for sure. And of course, I'm talking about now, not new. New, it's another
Sure.
thing.
Sure. At the end of the day, now is at least as important as the new, right? Because it
Yeah.
generates the margins
Hmm.
that keep the shareholders happy, and it also funds every activity that goes beyond the existing business, right? So there's no point in thinking about what is better, what is more important, right? We need both again
We
now,
need both
and the
for
end is
sure,
the important word.
for
Yeah,
sure,
the
for
end.
sure.
End is impro. Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. So I know that both of you, and thanks again, both of you. I know that both of you have a lot of ideas implemented, a lot of successful cases implemented on scaling things, scaling things for new and for now. I would like to start with you, Frank, because
Mhm.
you came up with the lean scale up methodology. In a nutshell, what is the proof, evidence behind the lean scale up framework? Why should people care about it? What are the key principles to make it happen? It would be nice to talk about scaling things.
Mhm. So let me take a step back, if you don't mind, Fernando, and contrast it with something that I guess most of the listeners, the viewers of the show are familiar with, the lean startup. So the lean startup was created around 2010 by a gentleman by the name of Steve Blank, and he was at that time a professor, I think, at Stanford University, if I got this right, or Berkeley, somewhere in California, right? And one of his students was a gentleman by the name of Eric Ries, who wrote the book The Lean Startup, which then had a great impact in the investor community, and many companies jumped on that, right? So they said, we need to implement lean startup principles in our company. The problem is, as Steve Blank, right, the father of the lean startup movement, said in various interviews with BCG and other great companies, the lean startup was never designed for that corporate context, right? The lean startup has the philosophy, well, I do have an idea and let me create a product that people love and then build a business on it. But that's not how corporates tick, right? Corporates are looking at businesses, and yes, you need products, right, that create revenues, and but on the other side, products are costing as well, the materials, the people, etc., other costs, right? So we're looking at EBIT, we're looking at revenues and at EBIT in here. So I think that's one of the fundamental problems or issues why companies struggle with innovation, is because they are applying the wrong basic principle in creating something that goes beyond the existing business, right? So when I organized a group of more than 100 people that said, well, let's join forces and let's discuss how companies could increase the odds of creating new businesses beyond the existing one, we felt the need to say, well, there must be something beyond the lean startup. There's some good things in there, right? It's a certain language that people have learned. Think about minimum viable product, think about problem solution fit and product market fit, etc. So they are basic principles, but we need to think broader. There is a corporate context. So how does the corporate context fit in? And we also need to think longer, right? The lean startup basically says, how do you arrive at this product that people love? But that's it, period, right? Nobody says, how can you create a business on that, right? With all the functions, the people that you need, and the scaling up pieces in here. So I guess my claim to fame, Fernando, if you will, is to have organized these 100 plus experts on innovation, corporate entrepreneurship, predominantly coming from companies from many industries, from oil and gas to automotive, from financial services to aerospace. And we all basically put our things together and say, what are the best practices and achieved then? And then how can we make it easy to communicate to the folks out there, right? So how they could design that interface between the now and new, including the scaling up part.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I have a follow up question on that, and later we move to John on the same topic. Frank, when is the moment to scale?
Oh, okay, that's a tough one. So, I mean, obviously, I cannot give you a distinct, succinct answer for every situation that the listeners, viewers out there might be facing. But there's two guiding principles, I think, that apply to any situation. Scaling or that transitioning to that scaling up has two components, Fernando. The one is it really worthy to be scaled? Does it make sense to invest people, to invest human resources, and obviously money in taking a first product that hit the market and try to create a 50, 100, $200 million business out of it? Is it worth the effort? So, for instance, three steps, I think key steps without going into too much detail is, did you really observe the customers? Is there a problem that you want to fix? And do you have a value proposition that addresses these points? Are you sure that this value proposition is superior to other value propositions out there? And did you really care about why should customers and how fast should customers adopt that new stuff? So these are three pieces, the central pieces, when we look at the worthy to be scaled. But the second component, and Fernando, interestingly, if I look at the frameworks that companies are using, you almost sure to see that part missing is, are we ready to be scaled up, right? So you cannot scale up an idea. You need to have something more, right? You have to have a kind of product. You have an idea on how to go to the market, etc. So it's a product, I would say, that really is flying off the shelves, like Mark Andreessen, the inventor of the Netscape Navigator, and now a VC in Silicon Valley, says flying off the shelves, meaning more product market fit, plus a repeatable sales approach, right? Where you say, well, if I invest this, then I get so many clients and the average clients will pay X, and that the kind of thing, right? Plus a scalable operating model. So worthy to be scaled plus ready to be scaled. So if you can check those boxes, then you can say now it's time to scale.
Thank you very much. I would say that's a $1 billion dollar question with a $3 billion answer. So thank you very much. We are rich now, all of us. Thank you, Frank. It's a good one. It's a good angle. Thank you very much, João. For you as well. When is the moment to scale or to try to scaling? And I know you've led a bunch of moments in terms of scaling programs and idea management initiatives in companies.
I agree a lot with Frank. Um, I will add also some practical processes that I see within our clients, especially when scaling ideas within the company. So if you're talking about new products, I believe fits very well what Frank said, a new stream of revenue and so on. And I will add regarding new processes or enhancing processes or new methodologies within the company that can create a lot of efficiency in the end of the day. Have a rollout cycle very well defined. For a lot of clients that AEVO Innovate has, they are global companies. Usually they are local companies as well, but they are divided in a couple of sites. And when they only have one site, basically they have a lot of departments. So think of a way to test ideas locally, understand for each idea which your success criteria, so you can really know if this idea uh, got right or not. It's a success or it's a failure, which is fine. And once this idea in your local rollout is a success, you will start rollouting, for instance, in 3 sites. And then when it's a success on those 3 sites, for instance, you can roll out globally. This rollout cycle can allow your company to really understand that to scale an idea within the organization, it's a process. It's not something that will be made from day to night, and it's something that you need to measure success in all stages. Okay, we haven't talked about MVP on this podcast yet, but I believe this is a very good expression wording actually. So do an MVP, do a test, understand that testing is part of your success, and have rollout cycles that will guarantee that your company will follow a process of proper testing. The truth on the end of the day, it's company, they love processes and they love having a right way to do things. So play the game. Innovation must play the game in the end of the day as well.
Fantastic, João. That's a very good insight. Thank you very much. Back to you, Frank. I know you mentioned a very good word previously, which is collaboration. You mentioned this word, and it's fantastic. Um, what is the best possible and effective collaboration model? How does it work in terms of having collaboration between a scale up team and core functions? How does it look like in practice?
Mhm. So what we, meaning those 100 co-creators of the Lean Scale-Up framework and myself, what we have found out is we need to look at the world at various flight altitudes, if you will. So let's start with the observation that many chief whatever officers, right? CEOs, chief financial officers, chief marketing officers, right? They endorse innovation. They say, well, with the company must be more innovative, and we have to disrupt ourselves before other ones disrupt us, etc., etc. And they also obviously sponsor the 2 pages in the annual report where the biggest innovation breakthroughs are featured, and also the company communicates that they are an innovative company and all that stuff. The real problem is some levels below, in the middle management level. And here's what we discussed in quite intensively, because this is a make or break thing, right? Do you end up with some shiny little thinking tools, or do you really create an impact and offer companies a chance to massively improve what they're doing? The key insight is that independent of which level in the company you are, starting with the C-suite, but also especially true at the middle management level, is vastly shaped by the goals and the incentives. When we speak about the middle management, it's also important to understand that their business horizon centers around systems where their next year is planned and progress being tracked. So these systems, interestingly, they all have a P and an M in here. So I call them the PM systems. Speak about pre-performance management, P like product management, P like portfolio management, like people management, like process management. Interestingly, all the P and the M in here,
Good
right?
one.
So and this is where the middle managers live and breathe by. Right? This is where their goals sit, right? And if they reach their goals, be it in product management or in portfolio and people management, right, they get their bonus. So one element of that collaboration model is based on that insight to get the goals system right. I would even make it much more sharper. We need, if the company is convinced that there is something that is worthy to be scaled and ready to be scaled, think about what I just said before, right? Then that scaling up needs to be reflected in the overarching goals and in the PM systems. Only then the people from the now system will support that scaling up. Not, Fernando, not because the people are stupid, but they are very smart people, and they are highly have a high expertise in the area that they work at, be it finance or legal or sales, etc. The point is much more they're living in and breathing in a system that is designed for repeatability, right? The process, repeat, 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 highly efficient and predictability, right? And so we need to adjust those goals at a high level and also at the PM system level in here to align the now and the new. Two more observation. I think the question, what's in for the core, meaning the existing business and the functions and the units, what's in for the innovation people, plus now comes the important part, what's in for the customers, to
Yeah,
nail this really down in a lot of detail, right? Not saying, okay, we want to increase our revenues. No, the ambition is in year one to create 10 million additional revenue, right? In that customer group, right? Make it very specific. And then think about, why should customers pay that? What's the added value that they get from that collaboration between now and you? That's an additional supporting element. And maybe a last point, Fernando, is these now people, when they meet the new people for the first time, I call them kind of in a very positive sense, the red shirts and the blue shirts, right? The red shirts are the people that work in the red oceans in the now business, and the blue shirts looking for the blue oceans, right? For the day tomorrow. You find that these are different people. They think differently, they speak differently, etc. So might also be necessary or supportive to build in some sprint facilitation, agile support in here to make that actual collaboration going really smooth.
That's
yeah,
fantastic. Go ahead, John,
great.
please. Go ahead. Thank you,
Yeah,
Frank.
just like to add that a quote that I remember from Frank's uh, absolutely great answer right now. It's that innovation is about people, and this actually doesn't mean that innovation will be only done by people, that you do not have to involve technology, AI that goes
Mm.
side by side with innovation for
Mhm.
sure. But it's because innovation it's done by people for people. So if you don't have people centered, if you don't have people aligned about the innovation process, if they
Mm.
are, if expectation is not uh, managed, you have a big political side as well. Things are not going to happen.
Mhm.
So innovation is about people, because you need people to not only do innovation but also adopt innovation. You're talking about your consumers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know anyone that's selling for AI right now. Maybe one day AI is going to buy, but right now it's not. So you're doing in the end of the day for people. So that's why
Mhm.
innovation is about people.
Exactly. Let me
Yeah,
just add one thing,
of course.
100% with you, Joao, is if you really want to understand and elevate the innovation capability, it's about people. Yes, fully with you. I would add people in systems, right? How they are thinking, how their behaviors, etc., are shaped by governance, by goals, by incentives, etc. So when we get this straight, a company can multiply its innovation capability.
For sure. For sure.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you both. We are almost finishing our lovely conversation and productive conversation. So thank you very much. But we have some two final questions to find more angles here together. Number one, for both of you, Frank can start, please. Uh, would you like to give a tip or one practical next step leaders can take this quarter, next quarter to improve, scale up outcomes? Please, would you suggest something?
Mm. Um, Scaling up success, Fernando, requires a setup for success. So are we really standing on a solid platform, right, when the rocket is supposed to lift off, or are we standing on shaky ground? What I see too often is that teams think they did all the validation, right? Open brackets, without really considering that corporate context. And then they show up and say, now let's scale that. I only need like 10 million to make it big, right? To create the first 10 million or so in revenues. Obviously, this is not break even, but it's a good start. Let's put it that way. And I mean, if we put ourselves into the shoes of the CEOs for a second, right? He would be thinking, should I invest the 10 million into marketing and sales of the existing business, where I would have a return on investment that I can basically already predict X% growth? Or should I trust the promises of those innovators that these 10 million will be well spent because they create a 50 or 100 million dollar business? So, and what this solid foundation requires, Fernando, is really a step in between validating, creating ideas, validating ideas, and scaling. I call it transition to scaling up. And this is where you create that operational alignment between the now and the scale-up team, right? So how should we work together? Who do we need to work together? What are the goals? And how do we adjust the system so that middle managers from those core functions and units have an incentive to support scaling up? So question for the listener would be, do you really have a solid setup for scaling up success? Otherwise, all the techniques, growth hacking, and maybe even using AI to accelerate the go-to-market, etc., will not help.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Frank. This is amazing. João, on your end, anything that leaders, managers, they should do to improve the scaling process or initial process on idea management, please?
Don't think that because once you failed on idea management, that it's not for your company. Because it looks like a simple process. I'll say that most of the time it is. But because of everything that we just said about engaging people, having expectations managed, and also a little bit of timing of your company within the market, things can change. You can have a great and successful idea management process within your company. Okay. Sometimes companies, they just don't follow some best practice that are a must to do proper idea management. And I truly believe that if you create a process within the company where people can be heard and ideas can be evaluated and implemented when they make sense, I truly believe that all your challenge for establishing now and new ideas will be easier. It's not going to be easy. It's not always easy, but it's going to be easier when you have people engaged already on idea management, evaluating ideas, implementing ideas, and used to doing new things.
Thank you, João. Thank you very much. Last question, as I promised, and thank you again for both of you for being here with us, for our audience. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for being here with us. Last question. Uh, which type of KPI or three examples of KPIs that you would recommend? Both of you, please.
So is it okay if I start, Joao?
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
let me extend that question a little bit. What should not be KPIs?
Please.
Before I come up with. So we're living in a business environment for many companies, right, where there's a certain closer to core call, right? And it's about short-term showing short-term success from all the innovation activities. So I would say the time where you measured innovation in some KPIs that express innovation theater, like the number of presentation nights we did, the number of hackathons, etc. These days are gone. So in general, I would say the request, my recommendation for innovation units would be, how can we measure your value in KPIs that link to the KPIs of the business? So for instance, in terms of revenues, so what's the revenue in year one that we are promising at the end of the day? These kind of things fly. The innovation theater KPIs do not fly anymore. From a general point, I would say if we look at scaling up, top line growth, not the margin, top line growth is super important. You also want to demonstrate that you're not just growing, meaning building the cost base in the same speed and size as you build that top line growth. So it's scaling, not growing, over proportional growth. And the third one would be, because it's make or break in scaling, customer retention. I would say if you did your ideation and validation exercises correctly, and you come up with the first product to market, you find your first customers. But if these customers are not sticky to your product, if they use it once and never again, etc., you will not build a business. So customer retention is super important.
Thank you, Frank. That's amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And to contribute on my side, Frank told about the innovation theater, and I always like to joke around. Shark Tank is a great TV show, and that's it. Because, but of course, that
True.
I'm joking around. Sometimes Shark Tanks can be a really good dynamic to present innovation within companies. But I really like to see innovation process KPIs. So how many ideas your idea management is generating? How many ideas are you approving? How many people are you
Mm.
engaging? People know about innovation within companies. This is a very good KPI. It's a very big beginning of the process KPI. It doesn't say a lot, and it's sometimes it's not direct linked to the revenue, but having the amount of people knowing what is innovation for your company, it's something that companies really struggle on doing. And then everybody goes to one follows one different path. There are some
Mm.
areas of the company that will try to innovate in a certain area. There are other areas that will go to another place. And I don't
Mm.
know if you guys try to just pull a rope in different directions, but the rope will not go anywhere. Will stay at the same place. Okay, so
Mm.
having people knowing about what is innovation, training people on that, uh, try a KPI related to generation of ideas, KPI related to how many ideas you are implementing, KPI related to the lead time of this evaluation, because
Mm.
you don't want people evaluating ideas for a year. You will lose timing, you lose efficiency. And of course, Frank said that I believe this is the most important KPI. It's why we innovate, that it's revenue. Okay, so how much
Yeah,
money you're
let me just
generating for your company.
add one
Of
thought on
course.
that, Joao. The process KPIs, I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? So if you do your statistics, then you can really support that predictability that the company requires, right? You wouldn't ask
Yes.
for an initial idea or the revenue. That's far too early. But you can say, well, if we have got 100 ideas, we know from the past 3 to 4 years that there would be 2 products in the market,
Yes, for
and
sure.
one of these products will be big, right? That's what our stats tell us.
For
So
sure, for
yes,
sure.
fully support, yes. Okay.
For sure, Frank, for sure. And what I see also in companies is that those KPIs are much easier. I don't know if you agree with me, but they are much easier to work on the now innovation, because you can have much more predictability on what's happening now, your core business, you already know. So you can measure the amount of ideas implemented, projects done, so on. And while you get used to the new KPIs of the process, you already have the now. The company is already used, it's already comfortable with measuring these KPIs. So when the new starts failing, which it will, we saw most of innovation they fail, right? When the new start failing, people are already used. The company is already comfortable with this process, with measuring this process, and I believe that their appetite for innovating will be better. Okay. Again, companies they are different. Companies they're made of people, and people are different from each other. But I believe that's a good starting point.
Fully agree.
That's good. Thank you very much, João. Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you all for being here with us in our YouTube channel, Lean Scale Up YouTube channel, LinkedIn. You have their contact. Please reach out to Frank. Please reach out to João. Let's talk about innovation, operational excellence, the next steps. Let's do it together and let's keep the conversation running. Thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.